Met My Monster by Amanda Noll, illustrated by Howard McWilliam. One night, when I reached under the bed for my truck, I found this note instead. Monsters, meet here for final test. Ha! My parents were obviously trying to trick me into staying in bed. I didn't believe in monsters. So I crumbled the paper, grabbed my truck, and zipped over to my garage. I heard some creaking, rumbling, but I wasn't scared. Our house always made noises at night. But then a voice under the bed scolded.
Stop that stomach rumbling. The child will hear you.
Voices? Stomach rumbling? If this was a part of my parents' trick, it was pretty cool. I peered into the inky blackness. 5 pairs of eyes blinked back.
See? Now he knows we're here.
The voice sighed.
One of you has broken monster rule number 1. Maintain the element of surprise.
This is no trick, I thought. There are monsters under my bed. A long-necked yellow monster slid out, followed by 4 little monsters.
Rule number 2.
The yellow one instructed.
Never block the bed. All of you, scoot over.
Hey, I realized. That one must be their teacher. I sat up straight, mesmerized by the monster parade shuffling across my bedroom.
That's better,
the teacher monster said.
Across to the bed is clear. Now, who knows rule number 3?
The purple monster teetered on his tiptoes and gurgled, "Get the child into bed."
That's correct, Genghis. And how would you do that?
Well, Mr. Z, I would rear my scariest roar.
All right, give it a go.
Genghis took a deep breath, opened his mouths, and let out a tiny brr. Stomach rumbling would have a better chance of getting me into bed than that funny little noise. I laughed.
The child is right,
said Mr. Z, shaking his head.
That was not sufficiently scary, Genghis. I'm sorry. You're not the best monster for this child.
There was some creaking as Genghis slunk beneath the bed. Before I could investigate where Genghis had gone, Mr. Z asked,
Now, who wants to try to get the child into bed?
The orange monster looked at the ceiling. The red monster looked at the floor. Only the green one looked at me. First, he stared at my toes and started drooling. Then he took a step toward me, and I heard that rumbling noise again. I sprang into bed so he couldn't get my feet. Mr. Z blinked.
Very unconventional, Gabe. Your stomach gurgles seem to be what this child needs.
What I needed was to make sure this Gabe monster didn't eat my feet.
Right. You 3. The child is now in bed,
said Mr. Z.
As every monster knows, the ultimate objective is rule number 4. Who can tell me what that is?
The orange monster bounced and squeaked.
Keep the child in bed until it falls asleep.
Correct, Morgan. And how would you accomplish that?
Shadow puppets! Shadow puppets!
She squeaked again. Gabe whistled through his nose. And I snickered. But Mr. Z said,
Interesting idea. Try it.
Morgan hopped onto my bed table and flailed her arms near my lamp. Silly shadows blobbed onto the wall, and a cloud of fluffy fur tickled my nose. Choo!
Morgan, stop at once!
Mr. Z ordered.
You're supposed to scare him, not to make him sneeze. I'm sorry, but you're not a match either.
Morgan's arms flopped to her sides, and she scuttled under my bed. There was some more creaking, and Morgan was gone. After all that sneezing, I really needed a tissue. Suddenly, a huge shadow of uncut claws loomed across my room. Awesome, I thought, and kind of scary. I froze in place.
Powerful performance, Gabe,
said Mr. Z.
But do either of you see a problem?
Oh, I know, chirped the red monster. The child is out of bed again.
Correct, Abigail. And one of you must get him back in. Let's revisit rule number 1. Maintain the element of surprise.
All at once, poof! The monsters vanished. Then I heard more rumbling. Were they hiding in my closet, making noises to scare me? Ha! No! It was only my stomach rumbling. All this excitement was making me hungry. I tiptoed past the closet and peeked out the door. So far, so good. No monsters. Then I stepped over the squeaky stair and sneaked down to the kitchen. As I reached into the pantry, I heard some chattering behind me. I sure hoped it wasn't that toe-loving Gabe. I yanked open the fridge. Ha! It wasn't Gabe. It was just the red monster, shivering on the shelf. Found you! I laughed.
Nice try, Abigail,
said Mr. Z.
but this isn't working. You're not the right monster for this child.
But Mr. Z, she whined, it's not my fault. He's not scared of me.
I'm sorry, Abigail. Let's go.
Abigail clomped behind Mr. Z. When I heard the creaking, I knew she was gone. I grabbed some crackers and headed upstairs, wondering if Gabe was gone too. I munched all the way down the hall. Then went into the bathroom to brush my teeth again. When I opened the door a minute later, Gabe was definitely not gone. He was right there, and he was huge. I charged into my room and slammed the door. When I leaped into my bed, I knew my toes were safe. Phew! I was surprised to hear breathing under my bed. Ragged breathing. And stomach rumbling.
Hey, kid.
Gabe growled.
Good to see ya.
I pulled my covers up tight.
Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to start the evening with an ominous puddle of drool.
I peeked over the edge of my bed. Green ooze spread soundlessly from underneath. Then the bed quivered as Gabe unfurled his spiky tail.
Well, this looks quite promising.
Mr. Z noted. When I heard some more creaking, I knew Mr. Z was gone. I was all alone with Gabe. Gabe loomed over my bed and began sharpening his uncut claws on my bedpost. How'd you get so big? I gasped.
Rule number 5, my friend.
He explained.
People food makes monsters grow. So, thanks for the crackers. Got any toes I can munch?
I scrunched in my feet so Gabe couldn't get them. This was way better than playing with trucks. No toes tonight. But you can have this, I offered, tossing a stuffed monster off the bed. Gabe dove for it. His soft, comforting snorts filled the room as he snuffled the toy. I shivered.
Kid, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
No other monsters can scare me like you, I giggled. Gabe was the monster for me. His snorts and oohs were perfect. I yawned and shivered again. I was asleep in no time. The end. Tonight, when I looked under my bed for my monster, I found this note instead. Gone fishing. Back in a week, Gabe. What was I going to do? I needed a monster under my bed. How was I supposed to get sleep if my monster is gone? I tried to sleep, but it wasn't the same without Gabe. I missed his ragged breathing, his nose whistling, the scrabbling of his uncut claws. How would I ever get to sleep without Gabe's familiar scary noises and his spooky green ooze? It was no use. Gabe would be gone for a week, and I just had to have a monster. I climbed quietly out of bed, so my parents wouldn't hear me. Grown-ups have some strange ideas about monsters under beds. I knocked on the floorboards, then scrambled back under my covers. I waited nervously. Would a new monster appear? What would he look like? Would his snoring be as cheerful as Gabe's? When I heard some creaking under my bed, I knew that the substitute monster had arrived.
Good evening.
Said a low, breathy voice.
My name is Herbert, and I will be your monster for this evening.
Herbert? What kind of name is that for a monster? You don't sound scary at all. Have you ever scared a kid before?
Well, no. But I have read all the best books on the topic.
Do you have long teeth and scratchy claws? I asked.
No, but I have an overbite. And I am a mouth breather. Listen.
Herbert's panting was kind of scary, but it wasn't enough for me. Listen, Herbert. I'm sorry, I just don't think this is going to work. It's nothing personal, I just need a monster with claws.
Picky,
Herbert complained.
As you wish, I'll go.
There was some more creaking. Then Herbert was gone. Some scratching warned me that the second monster had arrived.
Good evening.
He said in a high, silky voice.
My name is Ralph. I understand you need a monster with claws. If you would please lean over, I will hold out an arm for inspection.
I crouched on the edge of the bed, hoping to see a horrible shaggy arm with sharp, ragged nails. Instead, I was surprised to see sleeky, brushed fur with smooth, shiny claws. "Excuse me, I don't mean to be rude," I asked, "but is that nail polish on your claws?"
Yes, it is.
Ralph replied.
I believe professional monsters should always be well-groomed.
I could tell that this was not going to work either. "I'm sorry to disappoint you, Ralph, but I need a monster with scary claws, like Gabe's," I thought. I heard some more scratching, and I knew Ralph was gone. A minute later, a third voice from under the bed rasped,
"Check out these claws, kid."
I gathered my courage and peered over the edge. The claws were impressive, jagged and dark, and razor sharp. So far, so good. I was a little nervous. "Could you stick out your tail?" I whispered.
"Sure, but don't get scared."
I peeked through my fingers at the slimy tail slithering over the foot of my bed. That's when I noticed the bow. "Are you a girl monster?"
Of course I am.
she snapped.
I'm Cynthia. Do you have a problem with that?
Yeah, I do, I admitted. I definitely need a boy monster. Boy monsters are for boys, girl monsters are for girls. Everybody knows that. To each their own, I guess.
Well, aren't you a picky one?
She sniffed, and then she was gone. Was I being too picky? No! I knew that my monster needed to be well-clawed and menacing. The whole point of having a monster, after all, was to keep me in bed, imagining all the scary stuff that could happen if I got out. Then I heard a shuffling noise. And some slobbering. A fourth monster was under my bed.
Hey, the name's Mac.
One look at his claws proved that Mac was a big, scruffy boy monster. I shivered. Maybe this one will work out. Those are excellent claws, but do you have a long tail? I leaned over to see.
No, my tail is stumpy.
Mac slurped.
But I do have an unusually long tongue.
Why would I be afraid of a long tongue? I asked.
Oh, I don't know.
He said, trying to sound terrifying.
You never know when I might lick you.
I fell back on the bed laughing.
Well, if you're not going to even try to work with me,
Mac whined. I held in my giggles.
I really don't think you should send me away.
He warned.
Kids who reject 5 monsters in one night.
I did not reject 5 monsters tonight, I interrupted. My regular monster went fishing.
Fishing, eh? Maybe he just left because you're so picky. Fine, I'm out of here. But I wouldn't expect another monster tonight if I were you.
How was I ever going to get sleep without my monster? I was surprised to hear more creaking under my bed. Loud creaking with scratching. I thought no more monsters were going to appear tonight, I said.
Sorry, I'm late, kid.
Phew! It was Gabe.
I thought I would enjoy fishing, but I didn't.
He explained.
Those fish scare too easily. No challenge at all. You, however, are challenging, my friend. You're almost too old to be afraid of monsters. You keep me on my toes. Ah, toes. A delicious snack.
The bed quivered as Gabe's stomach rumbled with hunger.
Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to start the evening with an ominous puddle of drool.
I peeked over the edge of the bed. Green ooze spread silently from underneath. Then the bed trembled as Gabe unfurled his spiky tail. He was daring me to guess where he might pop up. I shivered.
So, you had some substitute monsters tonight.
Gabe said, sharpening his claws on my bedpost.
Were you scared?
Then Gabe started tapping. I could tell he wanted to know if I still needed him. No other monster can scare me like you. I giggled, diving under my covers and pulling them up tight. Through the blanket, I heard Gabe's soft, comforting snorts.
I knew it. We're made for each other.
He growled. When my blanket started to slip off the bed, I knew Gabe was ready to eat.
Now, if you could please stick out your foot,
he said.
I'd like to nibble your pinky.
I yanked my blanket back up and scrunched my feet in so Gabe couldn't get them. No toes tonight, but you can have this, I offered, pushing a pillow off the bed. I didn't even hear it hit the floor. Gabe was back. The ooze was perfect. Everything was back to normal. I shivered again. I'd be asleep in no time. The end. I don't even know how to describe what this is, but I like the teeth. And I like the balls. Now poofy balls. Now poofy.